and welcome to Healthy Living. My name is Cheryl McWilliams, and in our studio today is Dr. Timothy Howe, Medical Director of Wellness at Parkview, and also an internist, an internal medicine specialist, and his dear wife, Lynn Howe, who has a master's degree in public health. She's also a social worker, and she too is involved in the wellness program at Parkview. Welcome. We're talking about a subject today that is very near and dear to me personally, and that is the whole concept of personal care products and how they affect health. About 3 years ago, I've always been healthy as a horse, at least I thought I was. About 3 years ago, I started having some really strange symptoms, and I ended up being in such bad shape that I finally gave in and went to my doctor. I was scheduled to fly to California that afternoon, and she said, "You're not going anywhere. You're going to the hospital." And "What do you mean I'm going to the hospital?" And her response was, "Your immune system is shot." To make a very long story short, after a fair bit of testing, we learned that I had suddenly become allergic to a whole host of chemicals and preservatives, one of which was formaldehyde. And I thought, well, that's no problem, because I'm not a mortician and I'm not in a scientific arena working with animals, so there's no problem. I'm not exposed to that. Well, boy, was I floored, because as I began to understand not only formaldehyde but some of the other chemicals that I had developed an allergic reaction to, I realized that the lotion that I was putting on my hands to try to help some of the problems that I was having was actually one of the primary culprits. Some of the shampoos, the cosmetics, all of this stuff was hurting me.
Many of them have formaldehyde and other toxins in them, and we're just unaware.
Completely unaware. And Lynn, I know that you have done a lot of work and research into this very topic of personal care products and some of the crud, if you will, that's in it. So tell me about some of the things you've learned.
Before she does that, perhaps I should just point out this. Many times we'll put something on our skin without a thought. But it's important to remember that the skin is our largest organ. And we in the medical profession often use the skin as a vehicle to absorb drugs. I give hormones through patches. I often give medicine for the heart through a skin patch. And within minutes of placing that on the skin, you can see absorption. In fact, the problem is not getting it in, but having it go in too fast. So they've developed special membranes that slow the absorption of the product. If you just wipe a chemical onto your skin, within 60 seconds, about half or more of that is already in the bloodstream. And as I often like to say, you're probably safer to eat your cosmetics than to put them on your skin.
Okay, that's gross.
And the reason for that is really simple. When you put it on your skin, it gets into the circulation without going through the liver first. Okay. The liver, however, filters all of the blood from the gut. Everything we eat goes into the gut, is absorbed into the bloodstream, and immediately goes to the liver for detoxification before it gets to the rest of our body. That's not true with the skin. You put it on the skin, it gets into the circulation, it can go to the fat cells and stay there for years.
Wow.
And years without detoxification. So although it's said somewhat tongue-in-cheek, really you should think, would I eat this?
Right.
And if you wouldn't eat it, you probably shouldn't put it on your skin.
And that then would be true not only for personal care products, but I think about the cleaning that we do, that I do in my own home. You're washing your car, cleaning your toilet. We do those things without gloves.
We often use toxic chemicals that we would never, in fact, they'll say poison, and have the skull bone and the bones across them, poison, and we'll put them on our hands without a second thought. We never let them pass our lips, and yet they do in a more toxic way.
Wow.
very, very critical for us to think not only about cosmetics, but what do you clean your house with? What do you clean the toilet with? What do you clean your car with? What oils and gas and cleaners are you using around your workshop or in your garage? All of these things affect our bodies quickly.
It's something we don't even think about. You know, you're in the kitchen, you just grab that spray bottle and wipe the sink down with a sponge, and then you rinse it off. You're not even thinking about this stuff's being absorbed into my skin.
That's why I say it's so critical to ask yourself, would I eat it? And if the answer is no, then maybe you ought to at least put on a glove,
Right.
maybe a mask, but stop and think before you expose yourself and particularly your children to this, because children can pick up these toxins early and carry them for life.
Wow. So the skin is the largest organ, and what we put on it is absorbed into our body.
Absolutely.
Even more so than if we eat it.
It not more so necessarily, but it is absorbed without the cleansing action of the liver, which helps us with everything we ingest.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, I think that I really tuned into this whole issue as being a problem in our culture when I read about a comparison between the Europe Union and their approach to cosmetics and here ours in the United States. And I understood how they were doing blood tests of women to find out what chemicals they had in their blood.
Yes.
And it was appalling. You know, Teflon and like the chemicals you would put on your lawn and all these things of people who never would have used those products.
They didn't eat the pesticides,
No,
but it was found in their blood.
In their blood. They never would have had any pesticides put on their lawns, and yet here they were in significant amounts
In their body.
In their bodies. And, you know, they realized that these have been accumulating over a period of time. When they've done studies like on a fat cell, they found that it had, you know, hundreds of poisons. Like if you would go back and look at a cell from an Egyptian mummy, none.
Wow.
You know, so we have a increasing chemical load that there's a significant concern in the scientific community that is starting to have a health impact. You know, we have you know, all kinds of disorders, children, we have cancer, autoimmune problems that could have a cause and effect link with chemicals.
Wow.
And so there has been, you know, in Europe they have decided if there's any concern, then we won't allow it. So they have taken all those chemicals out of their system. Here in the United States, we have a different approach. We've said until it's proven to be problematic, we'll allow it, which is a different approach.